want to start tonight with a poem. It's called Deepening the Wonder, and it's by Hafiz, a 14th century Persian poet. Death is a favor to us, but our scales have lost their balance. The impermanence of the body should give us great clarity, deepening the wonder in our senses and eyes of this mysterious existence we share and are surely just traveling through. If I were in the tavern tonight, Hafiz would call for drinks, and as the master poured, I would be reminded that all I know of life and myself is that we are just a mid-air flight of golden wine between his pitcher and his cup. If I were in a tavern tonight, I would buy freely for everyone in this world, because our marriage with the cruel beauty of time and space cannot endure very long. Death is a favor to us, but our minds have lost their balance. The miraculous existence and impermanence of form always makes the illumined ones laugh and sing. I wanted to begin this evening with that poem. It's one of my favorite poems, and I turn to it often. It speaks equally of impermanence and wonder, the wonder of this creation. As many of you know, my former wife, Carrie Levitt, took her own life about 3 weeks ago. We were together for 14 years. I want to thank all of you that have reached out to me with support. Those of you that have known Carrie will attest to the brightness and the boundlessness of her heart for all creatures, great and small. And you will also attest, those that know her, her extraordinary gifts as a therapist, really a true healer in the largest sense. My life was enriched incredibly during those years that we were together. I really miss her. May she know peace, and may she feel love. I won't attempt to articulate the possible reasons for her taking her life. It actually would be probably unhealthy and impossible for me to tie this event into a neat package. Most of it will forever remain a tragic mystery. A mystery by those of us who've known her well, that we will reflect on for the rest of our lives. How many in this room have been touched by a close friend or family member that has taken their own life? Raise your hand. Now look around. The effect of suicide is unlike many other kinds of losses. The suddenness, the confusion, the not knowing of the causes and conditions. the causes and conditions, whatever they were at that moment where that loved one made that permanent decision. And sadly, the ripples of that act reverberate in those that were close, the survivors. If I had only done this or said this or visited, or I saw that sign and I ignored it, I was too busy, too self-absorbed, on and on and on. That kind of would-have, should-have, could-have guilt. A number of people have reached out to me who have had that experience with a close loved one. And in consoling me, I hear their voices, or in their voices, when something like this happens, a re-experiencing of that event in their life. So as my mind turns towards Carrie's suicide, and as I continue to feel the waves of the emotions, there is a natural tendency to try to figure it out, to package it in some way that makes sense, to put a bow of understanding on it, to let it rest in some known category. But the truth of the matter is that all the conditions can never be known. They just can't. Some of the conditions may be current and situational. Some of the conditions may be lifelong. And those causes will remain unknown. But it's a natural tendency of the mind to try to figure things out. It's part of the survival instinct that I talked about after our meditation. You know, we want to know and understand our environment so we can be safe and move on. But what is ultimately true, you know, as we go through this life, we navigate it as best we can and experience all of it with nothing left out. Full range of life, both the pleasant and the unpleasant. The pleasantness, the amazing feeling of loving others, connection, an amazing feeling when we feel those moments of connection with nature, this beautiful planet we've been born into. And also as we experience the challenging experiences of this life. Sickness, getting older, the loss, you know, the loss of relationships, the loss of loved ones. It's been said that a life is 1,000 joys and 1,000 sorrows. And really, what we really know about this experience of living is so limited. You know, the big questions remain open-ended. What is life? Why are we here? What happens when we die? Every religion has their explanations. They all have creation stories, how this came about. The modern religions, the indigenous religions, they all have creation stories. And they all tell us what happens when we die. And maybe they really know something. Or maybe those definitive answers that they give are for the sake of comfort. And really, what's wrong with that? whether it's the Christian concept of heaven or hell or the Buddhist and Hindu concepts of reincarnation. But when it comes down to it, with all this multitude of creation stories and answers that religions give us, it's still a big mystery. You know, what we know seems to be so small. Well, what a meditation practice asks us to do is to cultivate a greater and greater tolerance and relaxation for this mystery. That's a primary aspect of a spiritual practice like this. We have this changing flow of life, you know, all wrapped in mystery. And the practice asks us, is it possible to not grip so hard? To let go of the attempt of trying to tie everything down? And as I was saying, this goes against our survival instincts. It's important for us to tie a lot of things down. We got to get the rent paid. We got to get food in the fridge. We got to exercise, do all these things that we do. You know, we got tying things down all the time. But the practice is asking us to kind of move beyond the stress of trying to manage and tighten all the bolts all the time. To cultivate the capacity to actually rest in this mystery. To not grasp and clutch on so much. Allowing the wonder of this amazing thing that's happening. Allowing that wonder not to diminish or be extinguished through our attempts to nail it all down and make sense of every little thing. So a spiritual practice begins to internalize that perspective. I like R.D. Laing, if any of you remember him. He was a radical psychiatrist back in the 60s, and he always used to say, you measure your sanity by your tolerance for ambiguity. Measure your sanity by your tolerance for ambiguity, because so much we can't know. And so this practice that we do, it's asking us, you know, okay, turn toward your experience fully, but don't grab on. You know, feel those emotions as they wash through. See if it's possible not to get lost and identified in them. To feel them fully. It's that razor's edge of practice. To feel them fully, but not be lost in them. To grieve fully. To feel it all. So when a suicide happens and the mind is racing and the emotions are just, you know, tsunami-like, the pathway to healing is, of course, to the best of our ability, is to turn toward it and feel it fully. Allowing it all to course through without resistance. Feeling it and watching it ebb and flow. It's not constant. Nothing is. The only constant, really, the only thing that's permanent is change. That's the only thing. If you come up with something else, let me know. And the pathway to healing also simultaneously has the capacity to withdraw the mind or release the mind from trying to tie everything up. and to feel good again maybe too soon. To package it away. I remember the vet that I go to, one of my dogs died a few years ago, and they send a card. It's really nice. There's this kind of weird card. It's like, oh, you'll meet your dog in heaven, and it's like the idea was really sweet, but it's like, oh, this is weird, I mean, it'd be nice, If that's the deal, I'm all for it. So when we're hit or swamped by a loss like this, like someone close to us taking their life, watching the mind, which is part of our practice, seeing what it grabs onto, and in this situation, if it's grabbing onto guilt, if it's grabbing onto would've, should've, could've, to see that early on and release. Release. The mind will go there again. Release. And rest in the mystery and the wonder of this life. Rest in the goodness of the being that is gone or transformed or however you want to say it. The first noble truth that actually all the talks that we give are about the Four Noble Truths, really. If you kind of snake into them. The first noble truth is that, okay, there is suffering. We get born. It's part of the deal. Old age, sickness, death, loss, lamentation, etc. That's what happens. It's kind of interesting when I spend time with monks. I mean, they devote their whole life, to purifying themselves, and their attempt is to be liberated in this lifetime. And in the Buddhist system, you're reborn if there is more that needs to be cleaned up. If all the greed, hatred, and delusion of the heart and mind isn't purified and healed in a lifetime, back we come in some form and we get to work on it again. That's that particular belief. And so when I talk to monks, it's kind of interesting. Some of them fall into what I'd say is aversion. Oh, I don't want to come back anymore. This place is just horrible. There's so much suffering. I don't want to go through this again. And it's like, well, that's a little off the mark. Other monastics are more, I think, what is in the spirit of it. Okay, I'm going to really practice. I'm really going to kind of develop my human capacity here, and we'll see what happens. So this first noble truth, old age, sickness, death, etc. Here it is. We got born. My housemates, I have Steve and Amy have a little baby, Mary Louise. She's going to be a year old, and so we all live together, and I get to watch her grow up. It's really great. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to get up in the middle of the night. I just play with her and marvel at this little being. But I also can't help but kind of look at her and say, oh gosh, you just don't know what you're in for. Your parents are doing the best they can now to make everything comfortable and feed you on demand and pick you up and do everything. But it's a long trip, There's going to be disappointments and loss and, like all of us have experienced. So I see it in little Mary Louise. But anyway. So that's the first noble truth. The second noble truth is there's actually a cause of suffering. Not just you could say the cause is being born. But, okay, so we're in this life. The cause in this life, we have the ability and the capacity to cultivate the ability to either kind of decrease our suffering or eliminate it by, and the cause of suffering is this grasping, this kind of stickiness. And there's kind of two sides to it. There's the stickiness of wanting this. Give me this. This will make me happy. These material things, this new, what is it? The iPhone 6 is coming out now. Everybody sign up or what? The material thing, or the relational thing, or the psychic merit badge, or meditation merit badge, or whatever it is. Wanting. That's going to be the answer. Or the other side of that, it's really the same. It's the other side of the coin, the stickiness of not wanting. Oh, I don't want this relationship. I don't want these emotions. I don't want any, this. Push it away, thrashing to push it away. That can really exacerbate suffering. The level of grasping in one direction or another is really going to show us how much suffering there is. If we're wanting, and all the time, well, there's going to be a lot of suffering in that because it just isn't going to work. And if we get something, when we've got the habit of wanting and grasping, well, then that's not going to be good enough very long, and then we're going to want something else and else. But the good news about these noble truths is that the third noble truth is that there is an end to suffering. This is the happy part. This is the part that people don't give Buddhism enough credit. It's, they talk about suffering. Well, yeah, but they also talk about, there's an end to it, and there's, and that's when we can learn to reduce that amount of clinging and grasping. When we cultivate through our practice just the ability to let go a little more, to let be, to release the grip a little bit, and to put down the burden of trying to control everything. And put down the burden even of trying to understand everything, because we can't. So in this third noble truth, that there is an end to suffering, it is possible to come to know the joy and the ease that's available when we can learn to rest in this flow of nature, this wonder of creation, this vast mystery that we've been cast into. There's this movement and change, this bubbling change of nature. It's all around us. We can feel it inside us. When we sit here and pay attention to our bodies, it's like, what is all this bubbly stuff going on, and changes, and heat, and cool, and energy, and this and that. And then we can train ourselves, we can feel it externally also. It's like, where's the boundary? It's all like happening, atoms and people and everything. Trees and grass and, So this practice is about learning to get in the flow of this nature. Practicing letting go, letting go, letting go, letting go. See what it's like to kind of flow with it. To not know everything or think that we have to. It's a wonder. You go out tonight and you look at this sky. It's like, oh my God. We're some kind of life form we can't begin to understand. We're floating through space on this little watery planet. I had a long scheduled dive trip that was scheduled a week after Carrie's death. And I went on it with my daughter, her fiance. And so I spent the time just diving and diving in this womb of the ocean. What magic. The life that's there. And the friggin' water is so much the same chemical composition of our fluids in us. This great womb on this water planet. We live on the land, but this is really a water planet. So there's so much to marvel at. And the fourth noble truth is that there actually is a path and a way and means to cultivate this reduction in suffering if we put in the time. It's well trodden and well proven. The Eightfold Path, or the meditation practice, working on our personal integrity, our personal ethics, the way we operate in the world. Is every thought, spoken word, or action, is it creating peace and harmony, or is it creating some harm? And then what are we going to do about it? And then the training of our nervous system through these practices, so that we're not just slaves to our survival instincts. That we actually, the spiritual development, it is actually moving beyond a lot of that. And then the wisdom of the perspective, wisdom of understanding. So I think I'll end with what I began with. That poem by Hafiz. Death is a favor to us, but our scales have lost their balance. The impermanence of the body should give us great clarity, deepening the wonder in our senses and eyes of this mysterious existence we share and are surely just traveling through. If I were in the tavern tonight, Hafiz would call for drinks, and as the master poured, I would be reminded that all I know of life and myself is that we are just a mid-air flight of golden wine between his pitcher and his cup. If I were in the tavern tonight, I would buy freely for everyone in this world, because our marriage with the cruel beauty of time and space cannot endure very long. Death is a favor to us, but our minds have lost their balance. The miraculous existence and impermanence of form always makes the illumined ones laugh and sing. So thank you for your attention tonight. I know there have been a number of memorials for Carrie in town, various groups that she has been part of. I believe there is another memorial at Shannon Farm down in Nelson County on October 11th. You'll probably hear about that. Thank you all.